So one of the biggest realizations I had about teaching happened a little while back. I inherited about 10 to 12 students from another piano teacher. Now, this person was a good pianist. I had seen them play, very capable. But after inheriting these students, I realized this person was not a good teacher at all. So all these students were at various levels, but they all had similar problems. The biggest being that none of them could play through their pieces at all. Pretty much every single one of them couldn't get through more than 2 measures max without stopping and having to reset. They didn't know their scales, they didn't know their fundamentals, and they would all work on pieces for about 6 months. And even by the end of that, they could barely play the thing. So it was just seemed like a lot of wasted time. Now I'm very intentional about how I teach, and I try to give my students a good background and make sure that this doesn't happen to them. But it's very difficult to teach students as transfers sometimes because they're so used to the way that a person teaches before. And in this case, I had to undo so many bad habits. And not only that, I was beginning to dread teaching these students, not because they weren't bad kids. Most of them were, between middle school to high school age. It wasn't anything wrong with them. It was just the way that they had been taught. It was so bad. They didn't know what they were doing. And so I just didn't know where to start. And so eventually I got so fed up with it, I kind of didn't want to teach them. And I decided that I would just drill them in the way that I practiced my music. Kind of a novel idea for me, and it's sad to say it took me a while to figure this out. But before this, I was kind of always of the mindset in teaching of you try to keep the student happy, you try to, teach them the songs that they want to learn, because this is my livelihood after all. You need students, and I was really good at keeping students and keeping students happy. But this wasn't working with the lack of fundamentals, and so I just decided, okay, we're going to go into the lessons. And I had the mindset that when I started teaching them this way, most of them would leave. And I was fine with that. I wasn't intentionally being mean. I was just fed up with stopping every single measure, not being able to play the hands together. It was just a mess. And so it needed drastic measures. And so the lessons rolled around. During the lessons, I just operated under the assumption none of these kids are practicing. They don't know their fundamentals. So I started teaching them their scales. During the pieces, we would only go through a line or two at a time. Okay, do your right hand, do it slow. Separate out these voices. Now do your left hand, now do it again. Okay, where is the problem happening? Is it happening here? It's this particular jump, etc. And so just going through it very slowly, very methodically. And it was interesting because as I assumed, about half of the students dropped and half the students stayed. But of the students that stayed, I would say most of them would be the slower students. They weren't as quick or maybe as naturally talented. And yet, as the months went on, they really began to show marked improvement, and I didn't dread teaching them anymore. In fact, I began to look forward to teaching them. Many people say to practice what you preach. It's a very, very common piece of advice. It's a good piece of advice. It basically means don't be a hypocrite. If you say do something, you should be doing that yourself. You shouldn't expect people to do what you don't do. And so in my case, I realized that I had been teaching students very differently than I actually practiced myself. And so this is a problem because, again, I was doing it not with bad intentions, but I realized that, if students are coming to me to learn a skill, I should do it the way that I know how to gain that skill. The thing is, though, I thought that most of the students didn't want this, that they actually because it's extremely tedious. Most people want the magic bullet. You know, they want to come to a lesson, they have this piece that they want to learn. In my case, so many people are like, I want to learn the rock 3 cadenza. Okay, you can't play all your scales. And so it's a lot of people set this very, very high bar. And, you know, they don't want to put in the work to get there. But what I realized was, after teaching them the way that I actually practice, I end up with the types of students that have the mindset, the drive, and so not just the desire to do it, but they actually have the willingness to go through the process. And that has, over time, become a much better situation for myself. So I don't know if anyone out there needs to hear this, if you teach music, or if you, even if you're taking lessons, ask yourself, is your teacher just telling you something to make you feel better? Are they actually helping you learn? If you're a teacher, are you actually teaching your students the way that you would go through something? Or are you just trying to keep them in the seat, make them happy? Maybe that's working for you. Maybe you're happy with that. But in my case, I realized, you know, if I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, I need to actually make a change and teach with more substance. In the end, I think it's the best thing. And if I lose a student from that, so be it. I guess it wasn't meant to be. You know, and the cool thing too is I get to explain to students the way that even my practice has changed over the years. If I compare the way that I practiced back in my early days when I was an undergrad versus how I practice now, it's so different. I am much more efficient at the way that I do things. I don't waste as much time. Back then, you know, the biggest thing that I miss from my college days, it's not the classes, it's not even necessarily the people, although, you know, you have some good memories, some good friendships, some good professors. The number one thing that I miss is all the practice time. It took it so for granted, and music students, you might not realize this. If you're a music major, those hours that you spend in the practice room, yeah, we like to complain about it. Oh, I have so much practice to do. But man, if I could just get that time in the day to practice 3, 4, 5 hours every day, the amount that I could do with it now, I would be so much better. So practice really is a privilege. But I get to share with my students, okay, this is when you don't have enough time, this is how you maximize it, this is how you can find the time, create the time for it, have a good plan moving forward. So when I have limited time to prepare for a recital, one of the things that I'll do is I will actually write in, maybe not all, but almost all of the fingering, unless it's like very self-explanatory. I never did this before, and I thought it wasn't necessary. It seems like a waste of time, seems like overkill. But I found that when I have not much time, what doing that will do is it will actually force me to slow down and consider every single note. Consider, is this really the best option? And sometimes I'll be in the middle of writing down a fingering and I'll think, you know what, maybe I should do something different here. Other thing that I'll do is I'm working on a Bach partita from the Urtext edition, and those of you that know Baroque music doesn't really have much instruction. A lot is left to the discretion of the performer. And so I'm trying to write in, okay, where are all my phrase markings? Is this staccato? Is this legato? So it's a much more focused and nuanced approach than I had before, but it serves me much better and I'm able to learn much quicker. So these are the types of things that I get to share with my students, the way that I record myself, the way that I analyze. And it's just been one of the biggest eye-openers for me. Preach what you practice. Of course, that's if you like your practice methods, if they're working for you, if they're not working for you, or if you're dissatisfied with it. Of course, you got to figure out what's going on. Something there has to change. But if you have something to share, just share it that way. Anyways, that's just my thoughts on a beautiful spring day here. I've got this upcoming recitals in the works. I'll be playing Bach Partita number 2, the first movement of that, Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata. I'll be playing Chopin's Ballade number 1 in G minor. Maybe a couple short pieces by Rachmaninoff, and then the first movement of my Rock 3 arrangement. I'm also 3 pages away from finishing the entire arrangement, so I've never been closer. Lots of stuff coming. Please let me know in the comments what you think, if you have any questions, any comments, or if you'd like help with anything, and I will see you in the next video.